Originally, the universe of Tolkien began with Eru, also known as Iluvatar, a somewhat godlike being, the father of all and creator of Arda. From his thought he made the Aenir, numerous other beings who did not have a physical form at first, and taught them the music of the Aenir, the music that sang the world into existence. He then gave them sight and showed them his creation Arda, a flat land and for the time being empty world, and offered the Aenir the choice to either stay with him and watch over Arda from afar, or continue into Arda and shape the world. Iluvatar created 3 more themes before allowing some Aenir to leave, and each Aenir had a different understanding of it, therefore explaining why each Aenir is focused in particular areas of knowledge. Melkor, for example, is introduced as one of the most powerful Aenir, but Manwë is the head of the Aenir, and understands many of Eru's thoughts through his music, resulting in Melkor wanting to create his music themes of his own, and tries to make a different music during the 3rd theme, the one talking about the creation of the elves and men. Since Melkor was busy making different music, however, he did not listen much to the 3rd theme, and thus does not know much about the elves and men, and therefore does not understand them. The 3rd theme focused on the creation of elves and men. They are the children of Iluvatar, and the Valar was sent to Arda to prepare the land for them. The elves were given the gift of immortality, and men the ability to die. While death may not seem like such a great gift, it allowed them to be released from the world, on the contrary to the elves, forever bound even after death in the halls of Mandos to Arda. On the note of the gift of death, the Númenóreans saw it as a curse and bore much hatred for having to carry this curse. The elves first appeared in Cuiviénen and were named the Eldar, meaning people of the stars, by Arwenwy, the first ever elf being named Imin along with his wife Iminyi, then Tata and Tati, and finally Enel and Eneli. As they walked through the forest they met numerous pairs of elves. Tata chose tall elves with dark hair, ancestors of the Noldor. Enel chose the singing pairs, who are the ancestors of the Teleri. Imin was left with 6 pairs, ancestors of the Vanya, and searched during many years in Cuiviénen, but never found any other elves. When Arwenwy first came across the elves, they feared him, and many were suspicious of him. 3 lords, however, Finwë, Ingwë, and Elwë, agreed to join him and lead their people during what became known as the Great Journey, heading to Valinor. The men awoke a lot later in eastern lands near Hildorien, where the sun, the fruit of the golden tree, first arose in Arda. Some of the elves at this time have already settled in Valinor, and the Noldor were on their way to Middle-earth. Unlike the elves, Morgoth met the men long before the Valar did, and managed to convince a lot of them to ally with him. Thus the separation of the men, the Dane who instead headed to Beleriand, and the Easterlings who later became allies of Sauron. The Dane was separated into 3 houses, their leader being Beor, Haladin, and Marak. The first house allied with Finrod Felagund, a Noldorian elf and founder of the first dynasty in Beleriand. They are the ancestors of Elendil, therefore Anorians, and eventually Aragorn himself. The second house of Haleth or Haladin settled in East Beleriand at first, and unlike the house of Beor, stayed a rather pacific house. They perished because of Hurin, a man from the house of Marath who blamed the death of his wife and children of the Haladin, therefore causing a revolt which ended with the death of the Haladin. The house of Marath, also known as Hador, was the house of blonde men with blue eyes, ancestors of the Númenóreans, and partly ancestors of the Arnorians. They lived in Dol Lomin for many years under Hador, where they became the largest and greatest house, and many of the First Age's heroes came from it. The dwarves themselves were an entirely different matter. Before the arrival of the elves in Arda, while shaping the lands for preparation of the children of Iluvatar's arrival, Auli became impatient and tried to create the dwarves in his image of what children should be, which is why they are such little creatures. He created 7 father dwarves and taught them his skills in smithing and craftsmanship, but Auli did not have the skill of Iluvatar, and as a result could not give the dwarves free will, and they only lived when he thought of them. He told Iluvatar of his creation, and offered them to him, but he was angry with Auli's impatience, crying. Auli raised his hammer to destroy them, but Iluvatar had compassion and gave them all a will of their own, on the condition that they stayed hidden in the caves and mountains until the eventual arrival of the elves. Alright guys, that's it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it so far. It's just been a sum up of all the creations of the elves and the dwarves and the men, but we'll probably go into more detail in future videos. Unfortunately, we can't accept suggestions for this week's video as it's been delayed due to several reasons. But you can still drop in suggestions, and we will try and get it in for the next week's episode. Alright, that's it. See you later, guys.